Hey there, clan, and welcome to the last Dragon Age Inquisition party member advisor analysis. Well, we're going to be talking about the last character, who is very strange that we actually end up receiving her for the last, as she's the one who's always hiding in the shadows, the one who's gathering the intel, the one who is gathering secrets that need to be kept, and secrets that we use to our advantage. We're talking our Nightingale, Leliana. Let's dive into this, shall we? Okay, first I'm going to get a question. Why am I wearing a robe? This is a Spymaster's robe. I don't exactly have a Leliana cosplay handy, but I'd love to do a gender bend to her in all honesty, but I thought I'd at least don a robe. I thought it'd be an appropriate thing to wear, since we're talking about someone who pulls off a robe very well, I'm not going to lie. So, firstly, of course, I guess I'll have to explain my Leliana, the Leliana that I got in Dragon Age Inquisition. The major choices that I say in Leliana, for me, is that my Warden encouraged her faith. He was a very dear friend to me. Actually, my Warden was friends with every one of his party members, but Leliana was one who he did care for, not in a romantic sense, but he did care for like he cared for a sister. And while he did not believe in the Maker as being a Dalish elf, he did believe that she believed in him and believed that she had that vision. My Warden believed in her, not her vision. And he encouraged her, like, if you believe you saw what you saw, that's your inclination. I will not question it, and that's what you saw. And that's the way he sees it. And Leliana has always been a character, in my opinion, who's been a great example of faith can be a very powerful thing. It can be something that can redeem someone, and if it's used in the proper way, it can help someone find something that was lost, instead of it being perverted and twisted and destroyed. Leliana has basically, in my opinion, is one of the few people in the Dragon Age universe who actually understands what the Maker or the Chantry should kind of be, and what faith really should be. You should never really force it on anyone. You should always embrace people and welcome them into your embrace instead of pushing them away. Faith is not something that you can squander or hold to yourself. It's something that should be shared. And I definitely like Leliana for that. And my Warden helped her out without even questioning when Marjolaine came back. And my Warden basically just said, you're nothing like her. You're not Marjolaine. You're Leliana. You're someone who changed, who became different. You are better than her. And he let Marjolaine go. He was like, you're not going to bother killing her. And my Warden just says, go get the hell out of here, Marjolaine, but if I ever see you again, I will cut your freaking head off. Because it wasn't because she attacked him, it was because she attacked a friend of his. He was like, you don't attack my friends. You don't deal with that. And he just saw Marjolaine as someone who was beyond repute, who probably should die, but he didn't want Leliana to do it. He was like, let's just let her go. Don't bother with her. She is not worth the time and effort that it would take to kill her. And that's something that's very important to me, is important to my Warden, sorry. And basically I didn't want Leliana doing something that she would basically regret. Because she did love Marjolaine, even though she did get stabbed in the back. But yeah, my Leliana was a kind-hearted person who believed in her faith and went on to be the Divine's left hand. And that's something that I think definitely changed her a little bit over time. She was still the Leliana that I knew, my Warden, sorry, knew from Dragon Age Origins. But the thing is, though, we got to see what happened to her when she lost someone she deeply cared about. Divine Justinia, who was actually the revered mother from Leliana's Song DLC from Dragon Age Origins, who saved her basically. Without Divine Justinia, we would not have Leliana. Leliana would be dead. So we have to thank Justinia for that. But Justina was like a mother to Leliana, and she saved her faith, saved her life, and saved her soul in a way. And when she died, you could tell that it impacted Leliana a lot, and she's questioning her faith. It takes something that large to start making her question, like, why was Justinia taken? Someone who was so strong in her faith and who devoted her life to spreading the word of the Maker, and the Maker allowed her to die, while many other evils still live. it's something I think is very important to understand, and says that faith is always questioned when we are at our lowest. And you can tell this has impacted Leliana, especially with her job as now the Spymaster. And that she is still learning to be a Spymaster, even though she knows how to gather intel and all that glorious stuff what it is to be a bard. Being a Spymaster is a completely different thing. Varric is a good Spymaster, at least in my opinion, he's one of the best examples of it. But even he states that a good Spymaster needs to distance himself from the people instead of embracing them. Unlike Varric, Varric may have a legion of armies behind him as for gathering intel and smuggling, but he cares too much about them, and he will help families if he needs to. And Leliana thinks that's not the right way, and even Varric even states that that's not the right way. But I like to try and convince them that that is actually the correct way, especially when we get to the start of the first major decision that you get that can influence Leliana, and that is what to do with the traitor that caused the death of one of her agents. You can overhear and tell what she's going to do. She's going to kill this person if you don't do anything. And my Inquisitor is just like, what are you doing? Like, what, you're just going to kill him like that? Now, my Inquisitor does see it this way. He saw it as, well, this person might have intel. We need to know why this person betrayed her. Did they betray us for money, gain? Were they blackmailed? So my Inquisitor didn't want this person to die. But I will have to admit this was mostly just out of character knowledge, because I was like, no, Leliana, don't become Marjolaine. Because that was one of the things that if she did that, I knew that she would become Marjolaine. She would become something that she hated. And so I was a bit of out of character knowledge, but at the same time, my Inquisitor wanted to know what this person knew and why they betrayed us. So he didn't let Leliana kill. He wanted them to bring him in alive, because that's just what my Inquisitor was like. But I also know that would change Leliana for the worst. It would harden her in a way, and that's something I didn't want to see happen to someone who Leliana was one of my favourite characters, and I did not want to see her get broken and become something that she strived her entire second chance basically to not become. So that was very heartbreaking for me to see, but I understood why she might want to do it. She's trying to distance herself from that. But that's definitely the impression I got from it, that she didn't want to do what she was going to do, but she was willing to do it. So I definitely like that we got to help her a little bit. Now, of course, I've mentioned the death of Justina, who was like a mother to her, but you can tell that Leliana has changed over basically over the past decade that is between Dragon Age Origins and Inquisition. She's been the left-handed divine for quite some time, being sneaky, gathering intel, dealing with threats that needed to be dealt with. It's just something I kind of understand why her opinions and her lifestyle might change. Like, it's still the same Leliana that we knew in Origins, but you can tell that there is something deep down there that's changed a little bit of her, especially after Justinia's death, that impacts her so dramatically. But you can definitely see that there is a different change. She's done stuff that she might not want to. She's done stuff she might not want to do in order to keep the faith. And I definitely think that's very telling of how her character has developed over the years. As I say, she's still Leliana, but she has changed in some ways for better, but also in some cases for the worst. Now, I mentioned the dilemma of the Spymaster. Leliana is a good Spymaster, and she, after what happens in Haven, basically, the first thing she starts to question is she should have left her men out there. She should have left the men who could have given us a heads up. That's because so many people died at Haven. But my Inquisitor was always like, you care for your people, you care for the people under your command. That is something that we have to understand and we have to do. You care for your people who work for you. That's not a weakness, that's a strength. We have to embrace this part of our humanity and compassion. Corypheus might not do that, but this is why we are different from Corypheus. And depending on how you want that, you can change her opinion, and that will change how she does her job, basically. But I do want to see the Leliana I care about come back to this world and show that there is a chance for humanity. You don't have to be a Marjolaine, basically, to be a good Spymaster. In my opinion, a good Spymaster is someone who knows how to get the best out of her people, but also knows when not to take risks. That's something that's very important when it comes to gathering intel, and especially in the military sense, the way is know when to take risks, but also know when you need to give up. Like, sometimes there's no chance of victory. Sometimes there's no chance of getting anything out of it. sometimes you just need to say, right, we're done what we've done, let's get out of here, move on, we don't need anything, let's not take any unnecessary risks, even though we do need to do that sometimes in life. So I definitely feel that is something that Leliana dealt with throughout basically the majority of Inquisition, especially towards the end of it, when we do tell her about our time speaking with, as Divine Justinia, and what she gets at the end of it. And it's something that I think is very important to understand that, especially with how you do deal with her in Dragon Age Inquisition. And I'm going to get this right out of the bat. I was going to say this for later, but I think this is a good point. Is I hate the Hardened Leliana, because it's well written. It's understandable why she would take that, but it's that she kills that priestess. I think it's Natalie. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but she just kills that priestess because because it's too risky, basically. If you'd hardened her, basically, I didn't harden her. I was like, Lila, don't do this. Just let her go. What's the worst she can do? Gather some people. We'll deal with them when the time comes. And it's just it was heartbreaking to see the hardened Leliana, in my opinion. Like, even my Inquisitor didn't agree with her, and that's something that I think was very important. And it kind of broke my heart a little bit seeing Leliana like that. But when I saw the real Leliana come out, when if you didn't choose to harden her with the choices in the dialect that you choose throughout the game, it warmed my heart to see that this is the Leliana I want to see. This is the Leliana that I care about. This is Leliana. This is the Leliana that I care about. This is the Leliana I want to see. Leliana becomes Leliana instead of becoming more like Marjolaine. This is the real Leliana, someone who cares about her people and who is while is willing to shed blood to get to the goal that she needs to do, is also willing to talk. She's not she's not stabby first. She's, let's discuss this, let's play the game a little bit, let's talk about it. But she is willing to stabby if need be. And that's the kind of Leliana I think is very important and strong and needed for a Spymaster, especially in the Inquisition. So I definitely like that about the softened Leliana. I do not like the hardened Leliana at all. It's too cold, calculated, and it's not Leliana in a way. It's more Marjolaine than Leliana. So I felt that needed to be discussed there. So I definitely always not soften her. I make her what she really is, not what she isn't, in my opinion. But that's just me. Leliana, of course, as well, you can tell the way she talks about the Warden as well when you actually do measure, depending on whether you romanced her, whether he's alive or dead, that she does deeply care about the Warden a lot. She actually does care about him, my Warden at least. She cared about my Warden quite a bit. And especially, also, she still has a very high level of respect for the Wardens, especially after what happens at Adamant. And I think that's very important. It definitely colours her character a little bit, showing that she does trust these Wardens. She understands that the Wardens are a necessity. But she also was very happy to hear that her Warden wasn't there. The Warden that she cared about, her friend, her dearest friend, was not there when all this shit broke down, basically. And I think that's a good example of someone who cares for a true friend. And they do still keep in touch with my Leliana and that. I definitely liked how she reacted to it. Like, she was like the task is done, and also that she was very happy that her friend wasn't there. She's still disappointed she couldn't see him again, but I definitely like the fact how she reacted to the outcome of what happened after the Wardens, and of course Justinia as well. That's something I think was like how she reacted to with Justinia. She asked, was it Justinia? Was it really her? Or was it just a spirit masquerading to be her? Now, whether or not it's the real Justinia is up for debate, in my opinion. I'm not 100% certain yet. I do believe it was either Justinia or a spirit of faith. I do think it was at least a spirit of faith. So that's something I think is very important. I think that it was possibly either an aspect of Justinia or a spirit of faith who saw Justinia sacrifice herself, basically. But how Leliana reacts to that is very important, and how she talks about Justinia as if she's still there, and she doesn't understand why Justinia says she's sorry. Why is she sorry? I think, and if memory serves me, it is because she's sorry for what happened to Leliana and what she kind of became after a while. But at the same time, you understand that I think she's sorry for that she couldn't help her further. She couldn't help her be at peace, basically, in a way, even though she kind of did help her in that. And how Leliana reacts to that is always very heartbreaking, and seeing that she does deeply care about Justinia, and she is happy to hear that at least that she might have been taken by the Maker, at least. And I definitely like that. Now, this is one of the things I'm talking about. I will always make Leliana the divine, the proper Leliana, not the Marshall Lane Leliana, the true Leliana, the kind-hearted, compassionate bard singer who loves shoes and has a pet nug. That's the Leliana I love, and that's the Leliana I think is actually the best thing for the Chantry, because she wants to open up the Chantry and be like, anyone who wishes to join the Chantry is welcome to join, whether you're Qunari, human, elf, dwarf. If you wish to be an Andrastian and embrace that Andrastian nature of you and faith, you're welcome to it. It definitely isn't without repercussions. There are people who disagree with her, but there are always going to be people who disagree with her. And Leliana, depending on how you treat her, will either flat out kill those people or try and bring them into the fold and talk to them and get them to understand her point of view and see why it may be the correct one or it might be the proper one for the Chantry. And I definitely think that's what the Chantry needs. Leliana is someone who sees the Chantry faith for what it should be. It should be something that is open for everyone, and is welcoming to people, and will help people through the difficult times in their life if needed, like it helped her. So I think she's a good example of someone who got faith even later in her life, but actually wants to spread it and show that it is a good thing that can help people. And I definitely think that's a good choice for divine, in my opinion. I really think that Leliana is probably the best divine option, at least for her to be able to bring the Chantry into a proper way of life, in my opinion, to bring it into the right fray and bring it to the future that it needs to be done. It will not be easy. It will definitely be a challenge, but I definitely think Leliana is more than up for that challenge, and I'm very happy that that's the kind of divine I want to see. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure Cassandra would do a decent job, but I think she would be better rebuilding the Seekers rather than a divine. Even she states it for herself. So I definitely think Leliana is the best option, at least in my opinion, to be divine, just because of the fact that she would bring the Chantry into the way it should be, I'd like to think. It all depends on how people react to her, because I can imagine there will be a bit of infighting even in a future DLC or maybe even a future game. At least that's what I think. I think there will be a big expansion where the character who we chose to be divine will interact with them as they are divine. So I definitely think that's important to understand, that we will see them in the future, and I definitely am happy to say that Leliana is my personal pick for divine. Now, the future for what happens to Leliana is a bit still undetermined. I definitely think she's going to still have some problems and still struggles as divine, at least in my opinion. At least for the future. There will be people who will disagree with her, who will try and maybe even usurp her and actually take her away from basically the Sunburst throne. I do believe that there will be people who will try and do that. I definitely think that's something that's going to be quite tricky to see what's going to happen with that. It's going to be a struggle for her, but I think she's more than up for it, in my opinion. And whether or not she succeeds in bringing the Chantry into the proper way it should be, or is cut down, which I don't think it is, or fails in that, and then the Chantry just splinters off into different factions and sects, like what the Imperium did, is definitely going to see what happens. It's very interesting to see what will happen, especially with her new changes and reforms that she wants to implement. So I'm very interested to see where she goes with that, but I do think that she will be the best thing for the Chantry in a long, long time. And yeah, I think this is where I'll wrap up the video and give my final thoughts. I loved seeing Leliana again. I loved seeing how she changed, but I also loved seeing her evolve even more as a character. Of all the returning characters, I definitely think she is one of the ones that actually changed quite the largest amount, at least. Cullen changed quite a large bit as well. He's probably the most up there with the change, but compared to the others, I do think she's the one that changed the most, and it says, just throughout the game, it says she has developed so well with her struggling with her faith after the death of Divine Justinia, with also her job as a Spymaster and whether or not she thinks she's doing the right thing. And I definitely think that's very important to see how she evolves and becomes the character that you wanted her to be, and seeing where she goes from there and how you interact with her will determine what she becomes, basically. So I definitely loved seeing her evolution as Leliana, as the character that we cared about, and I absolutely loved that. and it's very, very nice seeing the way she turns out. If you do not harden her, I will never harden Leliana. Harden her would be one of the worst mistakes for the Chantry in a long time, and also it would not be Leliana, it would just be she would just become Marjolaine, and that's something I don't want to happen to her. So, thank you all for joining me in this journey as I talk about the characters from the Dragon Age Inquisition, the party members and the advisors. I do appreciate anyone who's stuck around and watched it. Leliana is probably one of my favorite of the advisors, and I absolutely adore her, and it was nice that I actually got to save her for the end, in my opinion. She's one of the first characters we get in Dragon Age Inquisition, and she's our advisor in one of the first party members in Origins, and also one of our advisors in Inquisition, and I definitely am very happy that I should actually be able to do her last. I absolutely adore doing this. I love talking about Dragon Age, but I do want to give a little update that for a little while, this is actually going to be possibly my last Dragon Age video for at least maybe a week or two. I need to take a little breather from Dragon Age. I love the series, but I'm getting close to hitting that burnout, so I don't know if I'll do it. But it depends what happens. We'll see what happens, but this will probably be the last Dragon Age video for a little while at least. But I'm happy that I got to end it with one of my favourite characters from the Dragon Age series. I thank you all for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this little series, and let me know, like, discuss in the comments, like, what did you think of Leliana? What kind of Leliana did you end up having at the end of the game? And also discuss away the other characters. But Leliana is a good place to start with Eddie. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and your secrets are always safe with the Nightingale. I will see you all next time. Ciao for now.